Well, it's an obvious question now, and one feels very sad about the losses that occurred. My sympathy to all those who lost people out there. But it's too easy to say that because things are going wrong now, it was a wasted effort. We simply don't know what would have happened if we'd done nothing. There would have been equally bad consequences, and equally we'd be sat here saying we should have done something. It's very hard in retrospect to make that sort of judgment about whether it was worth it or not. Everyone will have their own ideas on that. All we can do, I think, is try and learn lessons for the future. And as some of the previous commentators have said, to be better prepared next time, and perhaps be a little more humble in our aspirations.
Looking at the situation now, what you know of it, do you think this is a winnable situation in Sangin, or is it simply a last-ditch effort?
Well, you've got to start again by defining what you mean by winnable. What are you trying to achieve here? What do we want to achieve? The most hopeful sign is that this is actually going to be taking place on the political side in any deals that the Taliban may be doing with the Afghan government. But equally, I understand that there's power disputes within the Taliban themselves, and this may be part of their internal muscle flexing. We may be worried about the Taliban, but I think we should remember that we went into Afghanistan all those years ago really to get rid of al-Qaeda, not to get rid of the Taliban, with whom we had lived on the international scene for some years. So we need to be quite careful about what our actual objectives are. I think the best case we can look for here is some sort of rapprochement between the Afghan government and the Taliban. But in the end, it's going to have to be the Afghans that resolve this one, because I think Western patience has run out. And rather, as Lord Dannatt was saying earlier in the day, we have bigger fish, more local to our own neighbourhoods to fry than Afghanistan at the moment.
Well, I understand that, but the Taliban is destroying schools, keeping girls out of education, and of course it played a willing host to al-Qaeda, and the argument at the time was that the world wouldn't be safe for our type of values, and the people in Afghanistan wouldn't be safe so long as the Taliban were in power.
I think that's absolutely right. Those were the arguments. We never fully tested them, though, whether we could get the Taliban to get rid of al-Qaeda and whether we could have accommodated into the world system. Who knows? We never really gave it a chance. As I say, it's very easy to make concrete judgments now, but actually I'm not sure those concrete judgments can stand any severe scrutiny.
Now, in what is very active fighting, how ring-fenced will the role of the Special Forces, British Special Forces, American Special Forces, who are now assisting those people defending Sangin, how ring-fenced will their role be? I mean, frankly, can we believe it when we're told they won't be involved in combat?
Well, I have no idea what they're doing out there, but and we all have our own thoughts about that. I think it's an interesting development that we're actually talking openly about what they might be doing, whereas in previous conflicts their presence has been hinted at but never formally acknowledged. And so I think we'd better just leave it and wait and see what we're told.
No, I was just asking really about your experience of rules of engagement in those type of circumstances.
The rules of engagement are as they always are. I mean, they will be what the operation demands on the ground. If the government says that they're not there in combat missions, then they probably aren't there in combat missions. What they're probably doing is advising, as the government says. So I think let's just leave it at that.
You were saying, though, that you agree with General Dannatt that you think there are other priorities, notably, I suppose, Iraq and Syria, and potentially Libya as well.
You have to resort, I mean, it's easy in a situation like this to focus simply on the military, but the reality is we need to look at the politics about all this. You know, what we've been attempting in Afghanistan is cultural change on a management consultant timeline. These things, you cannot change cultures of countries overnight. If we're really serious about changing Afghanistan, and let's face it, that is a really serious challenge, then that is, as people have said throughout, a generational challenge. Frankly, we don't have the political will within the United Kingdom and indeed the Western powers to do this in Afghanistan. And if we don't have the will to do it, then we can have all the equipment in the world we like, but the Afghan people, they have the time on their hands, and they will just outstay us. So we've got to be really modest about our ambitions here, because we can pretend to short-term quick fixes, and they simply won't work. So, as I say, I go back to the point that if we're going for a solution here, we need to look for the Afghans to provide it rather than expecting us to deliver it on a plate, because it simply can't be done by us.
Do you think that charge of short-term quick fixes is fair? I mean, after all, billions of dollars and billions of pounds have gone into the non-military attempts at reconstruction in Afghanistan. You're just saying it was, what, a drop in the ocean that was needed?
Well, I'm saying I'm putting the amount given against the sheer scale of the cultural challenge we faced. And I think we never really understood how, I think we made certain assumptions about Afghanistan that have proved to grossly underestimate the size of the challenge we faced. Though, you know, first of all, our implicit belief in liberal democracy without realizing what a precious flower it is and how it's only grown in certain parts of Western Europe. And secondly, actually, our whole conception of what the state is. That is another Western contrivance that we came up with a few hundred years ago. It doesn't necessarily fit Afghanistan, where we can see it's sort of breaking down into local warlords, which is the way they do their business there, and on which we're trying to impose our system. So I think we're learning a harsh lesson in political modesty and the modesty of our aims that we should be pursuing here.